Thank you, Ms. Mas, for your candid in short seizure. Obviously, we are ready to get into the meat of this morning. Thank you once again to all of our opening speakers for setting a clear and inspiring foundation for today's summit. Your insights highlight the importance of collaboration, responsible development, and a shared vision for the future of Aruba's real estate industry. As we move forward with our program, we begin with a topic that lies at the very heart of a strong and trustworthy real estate ecosystem. It is integrity, transparency, and compliance. Our first panel of the day, Integrity at the Core, Building a Compliant and Transparent Real Estate Industry for Aruba, will explore the essential frameworks, responsibilities, and ethical standards needed to ensure that our market grows sustainably and with a full public confidence. To guide this important discussion, it is my pleasure to introduce the moderator for this session, Ms. Saina Maduro. Eager to learn as much as possible, Saina is well positioned to lead this conversation and engage our distinguished panelists. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Angelo Breda. Known for his leadership in both the public and private sectors, he's the director of the Financial Intelligence Unit, FIU, and serves as the regional representative for the Americas within the Ahmad Group of FIUs. He played a key leadership and role in Aruba's mutual evaluation by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, in which the country achieved strong results reflecting its robust AML CFT framework. Under his guidance, Aruba hosted the 57th CFATF plenary meeting in 2023, welcoming over 300 delegates from across the region. Mr. Breda chaired the CFATF during the 2023-2024 term and is currently co-leading a research program within the Ahmad Group on the emerging terrorism financing landscape and risks. His strategic vision continues to strengthen Aruba's position in the global financial integrity community, with FIU Aruba as a trusted partner in AML, CFT, and CPF matters. Also, let's call forward Mr. Darren Crouch is an accomplished attorney with more than 25 years of experience spanning law, strategy, senior management, governance, and executive leadership. He serves as chairman of the Objections Advisory Committee of the National Ordinance on Administrative Courts, LAN, where he provides decisive, high level guidance on complex administrative disputes. He is also the president of the Aruba Bar Association. As co managing partner of the firm, a law firm serving clients across a wide range of industries, Mr. Crouch combines rigorous legal expertise with strategic business judgment. His work is defined by precision, integrity, and a forward looking approach to resolving high stakes matters. Mr. Crouch's career includes senior roles across both the private and public sectors, with leadership positions and operations and general management that sharpened his strategic and organizational insight. He holds a Master of Laws and a Master of Business Administration, supported by a strong academic foundation in international business. Fluent in English, Dutch, and Spanish, he is committed to advancing justice, strengthening institutions, and elevating professional standards. In his free time, he practices Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Our last member of the panel is Mr. Stephen Geerman, CIA, CISA, and the Managing Director of Axioma Corporate Services, VBA, a Dutch Caribbean firm specializing in internal audit, AML, CFT compliance, risk management, and fintech solutions. He advises financial institutions and public entities across Aruba, Curacao, St. Martin, and Suriname on developing efficient regulator-ready compliant frameworks and strong internal control environments. With more than 2 decades of experience, Mr. Geerman combines deep audit and compliance expertise with a forward-looking approach to digital transformation. Under his leadership, Axioma has helped the real estate sector, among others, to transition toward high-tech compliance solutions, including biometric verification and remote ID validation, enhancing both transparency and client onboarding efficiency. Axioma's work bridges the gap between compliance and technology, empowering organizations to operate securely while meeting modern regulatory expectations. At the summit, Stephen will share his insights on integrity, innovation, and the path to a more compliant and transparent real estate industry. We will give now the floor to Ms. Saina Maduro to moderate our first panel of the morning. Today's panel, Integrity at the Core, Building a Compliant and Transparent Real Estate Industry in Aruba, addresses one of the most important pillars for a healthy and sustainable real estate sector: trust. Integrity is more than just a word we put in our mission statement. It is a system of values, responsibility, and accountability that ensures that buyers, sellers, agents, and all institutions operating on a level playing field. Aruba is evolving more international instance of growing local demand and continuous development, the need for strong compliance, ethical leadership, and transparency has never been greater. To explore this, we are honored to have three distinguished leaders with us today: the Director of Financial Intelligence Unit Aruba, the Director of Axioma, the President of the Aruba Bar Association. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our panelists today. Let's begin with the foundation. When we talk about integrity and real estate, what does that truly mean in the urban sector, and where do you believe what's that truly mean in the urban context, and where do you believe our biggest vulnerabilities lie?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. You can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay. No, thank you. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to the organization for inviting me. And the second thing is that no one stole my speech because no one spoke about compliance. No one spoke about the hard work that the FAU makes you do to report your unusual transactions to us. This young lady next to me is asking that question. So thank you for that. So the biggest challenge we have in Aruba with integrity is, in my view, or the view of the FAU, mindset that we think that compliance is a obligation, and we have to shift, and the FAU has been working on that to shift that mindset that compliance has a purpose, and the purpose is um, the minister did not mention that in his speech, and it was a very good speech with this, by the way. Uh, but in his speech, he had a very a clear red line, and what I'm saying about um, having the shift in mindset to a purpose is that if we do not take it seriously and take the compliance, it's all about integrity very seriously, we lose the sustainability of our economy because integrity is about good economics. Good economics builds trust. It attracts clean investment, and it sustains favorable growth of the economy.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Brita. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. Sure. Thanks.
Good morning. Um, Before I start off, I would like to first recommend to people, give, try to preach to people, the FIU is not your enemy.
Thank you.
The FIU is your friend.
Put your toes back in your bed.
they help us make sure that Aruba's name is kept up very high. Now, as it relates to integrity, I think Irvin said it very well. Learn to walk away. Money is not everything. Because what is money if you're going to, if your if your name, if your reputation is going to be tarnished because you sold a piece of real estate to someone on the sanction list? You won't only get the FAU after you, you get the central bank after you, and your reputation is down the drain. It also means being honest with your clients. I mean, not to mention any names, but there was a recent decision by the court where where it was found by the court that the client was misled. Don't mislead your clients. Be very honest. And you have to tell clients if you don't know an answer to a question, I don't know the answer. I mean, I've had clients come to me about should they respond about tax issues. No, you are not a tax consultant. I've had clients come to me, should you tell them about the RPV? No, you are not a lawyer. You're not an attorney. Stick to your business. Don't try to make, don't try to oversell something just to make a fast buck. But ultimately, your reputation is going to be tarnished, and that's part of being of having an of integrity. Just being very honest, being very open, and don't be afraid to do the right thing.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you to my colleagues, panelists, and thank you also to the organization for the invitation. Yes, in my 15-year experience and the last few years at Axioma, and in practice, we've come across a lot of different integrity issues, not particularly only to the real estate sector, but compliance in general. And I think the biggest challenge there is, and it connects also to what Darren said and what Spreto also said, is the taking accountability and doing the work, specifically in compliance, not relying 100% that someone else is doing the compliance work. Also, specifically in the case of, for example, outsourcing your compliance function, as I think both gentlemen here on the panel can agree. At the end of the day, either also in the case of outsourcing, you remain 100% responsible for your reputation, what happens, what kind of clients you attract, you deal with, and what kind of money you accept. So I think integrity starts with that, acknowledging your own responsibility and also carrying it as you should.
Thank you all for your answer. My next question will be directed to the FIU director, Mr. Blade. Your institution monitors risk across sector. Could you share the most common red flags you see in the real estate transactions and how exposed is Aruba compared to the regional markets?
Well, thank you for that question, because I was writing something. It's like you read what I wrote. No, I can mention there's a lot of things, but there are three major things I can mention by heart. The first one is in terms of the reports that we receive and what we see is complex structures, infrastructuren, structures in Aruba that has a holding company in an offshore country, and the whole idea is that the ultimate beneficial owner is hidden somewhere. And you don't know who the ultimate beneficial owner is. Not having sufficient uh, patience or systems or interest in finding where the source of money or where the money comes from when the money flows. Another one is I forgot it. I had it and I forgot it. It's the structures and who quality of reporting and those realtors. I think most of you are realtors here. Please hold your toes your back. But you guys are horrible reporters. Horrible reporters in terms of growth of the market. The real estate market in Aruba is booming. You can see all around. It's really booming. And we need to be prepared in 2029 when we're going to be asked for rent assessors because we're going to have our first round in 2029, and they will look at statistics of the past 5 years. So we need to show how good the realtors reported the unusual transactions from 2024 to 2029, and growth in terms of your sales, the GDP, representing the GDP of our economy, does not is not in relation to the number of reports that we receive from you. Commercial banks, Mr. Raffini is here. Commercial banks, the casinos, and the money transfer companies, those are the biggest and most, I can't find the word, not the cannabis, the best reporters. The best reporters in terms of quality, but also in terms of volume, what they submit to us. So I'm not bothering you, but I'm asking you to look at your unusual, the red flags in your sector. Ask questions. It's very simple. There are 5 W's you need to look at. What is going on? Why is it going on? When does it happen? Where is this happening? And why am I reporting this to the FAU? And who is all involved? Make your story. Just don't report something because it passes the 500,000. We are doing a research. Sorry for the long story.
It's okay.
It's my chance to do this. We're having internal analysis and making a relation between the reports we receive from the notary public with the realtors, because the notary publics also are good reporters. And Mrs. Helmayer sitting in the back there, I saw her. She's going to be happy with this. They are good reporters, but when the real estate transaction pass notary, they report. But we don't see that back with the realtors. So there's a gap between how big that gap is we're finding that out.
I have a follow-up question for you. How can real estate agencies strengthen their AML-CFT practices without becoming overly bureaucratic?
That's a difficult one. Which brings you. So I think the first thing that you must do is changing the mind, what I said in the beginning, is changing the mindset of not seeing as the obligation. Because if you do something because you feel it, you're obligated to do so, it's going to be hard. If you think its purpose is good for the country, and Darren said it, earning that quick buck is great. But losing it all at once is not very good. So if you look at compliance of the reporting as a purpose, safeguarding the financial integrity of our country, you're going to do good business. You're going to attract great investments. So you're going to have sustainable growth in your sector.
Thank you for your answer. Turning now to our compliance specialist from Axioma. Many real estate companies, especially small firms, struggle with governance structure. Where do they usually fall short, and what are the top 3 compliance priorities you would give the industry for 2025?
Um, yeah, I think like Angela just mentioned, the boom of the last couple of years, we've seen indeed many real estate entities, real estate agents in the market. I think the smaller they are, um, and the more transactions you want to take on, of course, AML, CFD, the costs increase, the paperwork increases, what you need to request according to the national ordinance. I think what we see the most is lacks in really in-depth customer due diligence. So, like Angelo said a moment ago, really finding out who you're dealing with. For example, when doing your due diligence on a company, not just stopping at the company level, but going all the way to the ultimate beneficiary owner. That's one of the, I think, top 3 that we see a lot. Secondly is treating every transaction the same. Uh, Not many changes and not applying a very risk-based approach, which is the basis of the national ordinance and how it should be applied as well. We have geographical risks and factors that play a role. You need the channel, and of course the amount and other factors that play a role that you need to take into consideration when you perform a risk assessment, whether you take on the client, yes or no. So I think, secondly, is a not complete risk assessment being done so not really understanding the risks that you're exposing yourself to. Second one, and third one is keeping up to date in the terms of training and especially when it comes to red flags that we just mentioned a moment ago. It's relatively easy, especially for to notice an objective indicator and report on that. When it comes to subjective indicators and you have the human element, when you see red flags such as, for example, a potential buyer or seller taking way too long, more than normal, to provide an ID, being hesitant about when you ask certain questions, them asking you, why do you need to answer me this, ask me this, etc., etc. Those subjective red flags, I think, are also one of the main issues that we see that are lacking. That the focus on those is lacking.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Mr. Angelo wants to add something on.
Ask for permission. Thank you. Thank you. Not to lose your point, what Axioma just said, what Stephen just said, there was no during the introduction of me. You heard how much involvement in the region, international, etc. And when we are having those meetings in the region, and one of the countries was asking me if we see in our real estate sector that and this is not a racist comment, one question to me. If we see individuals, nationals from foreign from countries from the East Europe investing in real estate in Aruba. So I ask, why do you ask? No, why is that? Is it a trend? Yes, it's a trend they see in this jurisdiction. And they say, okay, and I'll have a look at it. No, I'm sure that I know that there are people from Eastern Europe buying real estate in Aruba, but I'm not sure how big that is. In that country, they are thinking that those it's booming thing, so they are buying a lot of real estate in that jurisdiction, and they're thinking that it has to do with human trafficking. You guys heard about that? So I was shocked that human trafficking in real estate. How does that figure? So it was an excuse. It sounds horrible. And to me, it was horrible then. We think is Eastern European countries are very good in commercializing their ladies. So what they do is it's about prostitution, selling ladies. Sometimes I can't find my English words. They have this business of delivering ladies, the beautiful women, to certain countries, and you would rent as a tourist a Airbnb, all inclusive. So you have the house, you have ladies, whatever. And how they get their payment back because the ladies they deliver is by reselling the real estate. So the millions it's a multi-million business with human trafficking. So how they get back the money is by real estate transactions. I just want to add that in, not to scare you, but take a look at that, please.
Thank you for that. And for our president of the Bar Association, what legal gaps currently leave room for unethical or non-transparent practices in property transaction? And what reforms or frameworks do you believe constructor consumers protection?
The gaps that occur normally because the realtor is unaware of their obligation under the national ordinance. We get many questions still by realtors, surprisingly, why do they have to do this and so on. We also get questions from colleagues that ask us from the other offices, why do we need to do this as attorneys? That's just your obligation. The fact that an attorney has done the fact that the notary has done the custom due diligence, the fact that the realtor has done the custom due diligence, thank you, does not mean that as attorneys we do not have the obligation to do so. But we also get attorneys um, that do not know how to do custom due diligence. And as attorneys, you should not be afraid to ask a professional compliance officer to help. So those are some of the gaps that we see in the legal industries, legal industry as it relates to the ethical part, and so on. Just be upfront with your client. If you do not question, as I said before, tell your client we do not question. One of the challenges I face in my practice is that we try to we are always approached after the fact No, come to us before the fact so we can prevent a problem from occurring. Once the problem has occurred afterwards, it's more difficult to deal with. One of the questions we often get in how to win a contract so that we give certain guarantees. As attorneys, we cannot draft contracts to give certain guarantees. I mean, it is the obligation of the seller to be upfront with the buyer. I would recommend as attorney to put all those things that a seller has said on paper so that the buyer has no expectation or maybe the expectations are not being met. But if you put everything on paper, those expectations will be met. And that is also part of being of an ethical practice.
Thank you for your answer. I'd like to bring you all in here for this question. What is the ideal relationship between lawyers, realtors, and government institutions when it comes to ensuring compliance and transparency?
First.
Just be open. Be open. Don't hide anything. Ultimately, you're trying think, to execute a transaction when there are different parties involved. But if you try to cut corners, if as an attorney you don't give certain information, that will come up. I mean, the notary is involved, they will do certain research, and if you as an attorney have left out certain information, you get yourself in the hot water with my neighbor here to my left, your right. So just be honest. There are no shortcuts. I mean, there are business transactions. Realtors, and I say this very respectfully, they earn good money. Lawyers earn good money, and just invest into maybe hiring external compliance officers. Get the job done.
Thank you.
I want to add to be have a consistent, open conversation with FIU. So the reason that Alice that I feel it's not an enemy is because he knows that he can come and have a coffee with us and talk about risks or concerns. And some of the realtors do that, mostly don't. The banks do. So let's have a conversation, especially tell us what you see. And that's one thing. And the second thing is, we are not what you tell us. We do not go and tell the central banks you get fined because they fine. We don't. That's not the relationship we have with the central bank. They're doing a very good job, but that's not the relationship. And the third one, when you report, we do not disclose who reported it to the law enforcement officers. When you report something and we find something that's worth further investigation, we are not police. We do financial analysis. We look at there's some weird stuff going on, and we give it to the law enforcement, and they do the investigation. But we do not give them your names because that's not the issue. I mean, that's not the way we work. There's a difference between intelligence and evidence, and we don't look for evidence. We just look for the intelligence is in your story.
Thank you.
I was thinking what to add more to what the gentleman next to me have already added. But I think from a specific perspective from us, from what we see in practice, whether it's a very complex transaction, real estate transaction, or a very simple transaction that is intended or has taken place or is planning on taking place, and we help with compliance, or we also perform compliance audits. And what we notice the most across just the real estate sector is the different big differences there are when it comes to application of, for example, source of funds, source of wealth. And that can all be fixed with what these two gentlemen have said with communication. And I think it ties back to what the minister also said in the beginning. It's putting um, your own being well-being financially and ego aside, and having those conversations like internally in the organization and just with other realtors too. And do not be afraid to ask questions. We unfortunately live on an island where a taboo exists that I'm scared to ask this question because it might come over as though I'm not intelligent in any manner, and that hurts more than it benefits anyone. And thank you, Darren, for the reference. You can also contact a compliance officer for, of course, that's the resort. But I mean, open communication and sessions like these, summits like these, and just communication within your sector. How are you doing this kind of screening? What are you using? And how are you reporting? How much information are you giving? And are you hearing back from the FIU and all those? So it's communication within the sector as well, and putting your own brand aside for a second, because like both gentlemen have said, and we take it on an even higher national level, if a national assessment comes and Aruba, I mean, real estate sector is a high risk sector by definition, together with gaming and other sectors like that. If findings show that we are lacking, the worst thing that can happen to Aruba is end up on a gray list or worse for the bringing in of investors and people that we need to actually accelerate and keep our GDP and even accelerate it going into the future. And the last point I want to make is also look into innovation as the market booms, more realtors. It doesn't have to be specifically more man intensive, but there are also many innovation tools out there that can make it a lot easier, where you can pinpoint risk factors that perhaps the human eye, the human mind is not focused on.
Thank you.
And the worst thing is not the worst thing is the algorithm is a bad thing, but the worst thing is when Mr. Lotafini loses its corresponding bank.
It's also a problem.
When we are as an island isolated, that your transactions cannot go nowhere because we have no correspondence bank to do that for you. That would be the when we're hanged, really hanged.
Do you all believe we are currently working in silos, or are we moving towards a more unified systems?
Can I go first? Thank you for the question because we have a minister here, so he needs to hear this. So we do work in silos, regretfully. However, in the previous mutual renovation, we saw, and that's why you mentioned, your colleague mentioned that the FAU had a very leading role in pulling that evaluation in a very good way. But no, people were angry at us. They yelled at us, and anyway. But we fought for the flag. We fought for Aruba, and we had a good. With Bermuda, we were the only two countries in the region that had a very good report. And Belize just joined, but in the entire Caribbean region, 25 nations, 24 nations. The U.S. is also a nation now, but they're sorry, Bermuda, Aruba, and Belize are the only three countries that have a good report. And we work in silos, and that needs to change, Minister. So you can talk to your colleagues. We need to talk about a national coordination. We have one, it's not working. We need to be the public sector need to unite. When we unite, the private sector follows us. We need to be prepared for the next round. We cannot afford that we're going to have this bad report to having a very good report in 2021.
Thank you. Who wants to go next?
Yes, we're definitely working in silos. Unfortunately, like Angelo said, silos of knowledge, silos of just like I said a minute ago, basically other question based on just I think egos and just the human inability sometimes to just be open to asking questions. So we would rather just close off and be in silence, in silos. And that is unfortunately the case because many lessons go unlearned then from what went wrong that could have been shared. We don't have to look very far to see what is possible. Um, we I can only specifically say in our case, but the projects going on our sister island, Curacao, for centralization, for working less in silos when it comes to compliance and information that are secure, are reliable, comply with international regulations when it comes to GDPR, ISO compliance. So, I mean, it is possible to break down those walls and move towards working together. But unfortunately, yes, we are still working in silos. And that's what is causing what I said. We see practice a lot of the times inconsistency between real estate agencies and developers and type of loans and all that.
Thank you.
I do think that things will get better on this territory. And I think the media also is going to play a big role. I mean, the last, I think 2 weeks, there's been a number of verdicts that were read by the court where the fines were published that certain entities have to pay. I think slowly but surely, once people realize that this is a serious matter, the fines can make or break you. That all parties who have reporting responsibility to the FIU, they are going to take this more serious. I mean, no one is going to wants to pay a fine starting at 100,000 florins going up. I mean, that's just money thrown away. And why would you want to do that? It just take the time to do the customer due diligence. I think by doing summits like this, where we can talk about compliance, where we can talk about the obligations that need to be done in the towards the FIU, towards the central bank. Once you get that message going on a consistent basis, the walls will be broken down, and people are going to be more receptive on doing this as an automatic. It's going to become automatic. It's going to become second nature. It's something that just has to be done. But trust me, you don't want to get a fine from the central bank. It's going to follow you. It's going to haunt you, and it's going to break you.
Thank you. And for the last question, we're going to spice things up a bit with a debate question. The debate is, do you believe in stricter regulation or a better education? What does Aruba need more right now? And do you believe our industry is ready for an enhanced enforcement?
I would say we have sufficient our email safety framework is robust enough. As president of the Financial Action Task Force, she's a Mexican, very powerful lady. She said, actually, she uses this analogy. She says, financial crime is like water. It flows like water. It finds cracks. And what we need to do is to be agile, proactive enough to close those cracks. So a system legally, the laws, procedures we have sufficient, robust enough. What we need to do, invest more, is education. And not only education, but again, that mindset, changing that mindset that the compliance, integrity is not something that is an obligation, but a purpose. And the purpose is, as we all say, the financial reputation of the country. Then we're all good to go.
Thank you.
But I will be very careful, Angelo, when you say financial crimes. I mean, financial crimes would implicate that you're doing something on purpose. Many of the fines given, what I see by the central bank, is because reporting has not taken place within the prescribed time frame. Now, that could be for many reasons, but that doesn't per se mean that you're dealing with a financial crime. It also means that if you did not do your customer due diligence because you forgot to do something, that doesn't automatically mean that you're talking about financial crime. So I would be very careful when you use a word as financial crime, because that would imply that people are doing something on purpose.
Well, what you said is correct, but defines that what we just said is it's a robust framework. And if we do not have that in place, if you report late, you're opening a track for financial crimes. I'm not saying you got to fine because you committed financial crime. That's not the point. The point is that you did not comply with that framework. And you made financial crime possible. Because what money laundering and the financing of terrorism and the financing of proliferation of weapons of mass destruction in the whole world, um, those are the result, or those things happen using financial crime strategies. The system needs to be in place, and that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, and I think my answer agrees as in line with basically what Angelo said as well from this FAU perspective. We have, I think, for Aruba, one of the strictest frameworks when it comes to money laundering, anti-money laundering, combating of financing of terrorism. So I do not think more legislation is per se the issue. I think it comes down to training, and secondly, knowing exactly who you're dealing with when it comes to, for example, outsourcing and compliance and systems you use. For example, Darren just mentioned the late reporting of transactions, which I think that is the highest percentage of reasons why fines are given out. 5 business days, max 5 business days. Right now, with the use of digital onboarding, biometric scans, automatic AML, CFT screenings, plus the ability to report automatically also as well to the portal of FAU, there should not be any reason to report late on. So I mean, I've also had the last year different owners of companies call me after the fact, like, yo, we just got a letter for a fine for this amount, and in most cases it was an outsourced issue, compliance officer, and what lacked there is understanding. Again, one of my first points I made is understanding your responsibility as the financial institution or company under supervision. It falls under the national ordinance, and understanding in your agreement with outsourced party that they are not responsible at the end of the day, and you have to monitor their quality of their service. You have to be on top of them. You cannot just put compliance aside and be like, it's out the door. They get paid to do it. And in most cases, that's where it goes wrong. And legally, unfortunately, you cannot do much then.
Thank you. As we conclude today's discussion, reminds us of one critical truth. Integrity is not an option. It's the foundation of a trusted and thriving real estate industry. Aruba has incredible potential, but that potential can only be unlocked when transparency becomes the norm, when compliance is embraced rather than feared, and when every stakeholder, government, legal professionals, compliance experts, and realtors work together. On behalf of the organizers of Shaping the Future Real Estate Summit 2025, I want to thank our exceptional panelists for their insight, dedication, and leadership. Thank you all for being here today, for caring about our future of our industry, for being part of the movement toward a more ethical and sustainable. Let's continue shaping the future with integrity at the core. Thank you.